Good day, I'm Marina Kim, and these are the latest news from Kazakhstan. Political revenge. Ex-president of Kyrgyzstan Askar Akayev comments the accusations that Kyrgyz government had posed against him, including the illegal transfer of the near-border landlots to Kazakhstan. August full of incidents. A bus carrying Kazakh students crashed in China, while flight delays became normal in Kazakh airports. Slavery in the 21st century. Kazakhstan is in the leading position in human trafficking among CIS member states. The ex-president of Kyrgyzstan Askar Akayev claims that the Kyrgyz-Kazakh border delimitation process was conducted legally. The illegal delimitation of the state border is one of the claims episodes upon which the ex-leader of Kyrgyzstan was deprived from the presidential immunity status recently. According to the claim, the Kyrgyz land was allegedly transferred to Kazakhstan during the process. Next report has more.
The ex-president of Kyrgyzstan, Askar Akayev, calls the accusations of the interim government over the transfer of indigenous Kyrgyz lands to Kazakhstan as a political vengeance. The interim government has published a decree that deprives Akayev from immunity, including for the bilateral process over the delimitation of Kyrgyz-Kazakh border in 2001. This is simply political vengeance. I don't want to talk about it. I answered to all the claims. This was done based on international laws and constitution. The border issues were regulated, ratified by the parliaments of Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, whereas concerning the Bakiyev times, I don't know. According to Akayev, all 600 hectares of land that were transferred to Kazakhstan, including the land lot from the strategic highways on the exit of Bishkek, rightfully belong to Kazakhstan. This was reinforced by several bilateral agreements. However, the Kazakh Foreign Affairs Ministry is not informed over the neighbors' land claims. I don't have this information. This is not the first case when the Kyrgyz authorities are claiming the land from the neighboring Kazakhstan. In June, the Prime Minister of the Kyrgyz interim government, Azimbek Beknazarov, declared that 4 Kazakh resorts on the Issyk Lake will be taken away. President Nazarbayev has called to ignore such claims, whereas in a week, the acting Minister for Economic Regulation of Kyrgyzstan, Emil Umitaliyev, assured that this is a private opinion and not the official position. Sometimes it creates paradoxes when the owners of Kazakh resorts on the shores of Issyk are being blamed, while the Kyrgyz governmental delegations are in Astana asking for Kazakh aid. According to the well-known Central Asian expert Alexander Knyazev, the territorial issues are indeed painful, but the populist statements are not intended for politicians but for the electorate, for the internal use, so to say. The political scientist, though, doesn't exclude that Kyrgyz interim government will turn its words into actions.
On the 39th day of the hunger strike, interest holders protesting in Astana had to move into other premises as the landlord of the one they were leasing had refused to prolong the lease term. Meanwhile, one of the interest holders had to stop the strike because of her health condition. Next report has more.
After 34th day of continuous hunger strike on August 18th, the interest holders were kindly asked to leave the premise which they used as a protest venue. We had to move out because the owner of the premise we leased has changed. We tend to think it is not a coincidence because even the previous one was insisting us to leave it. Interest holders have changed the venue by moving into a place which is literally impregnated with the spirit of protests just in front of the construction site. The new place had nearly become a historic place of battle between the protesters and law enforcement authorities. When the trial started, the fights broke up in Slobodka. Police Special Forces unit had cleared each fight up. They couldn't reach me, though tried 3 times. They failed to evict me. Mikhail and Nadezhda Palchik say they are used to constant moves. On September 9th, they will celebrate their golden anniversary. State decree that imposes the estate ownership limits had left no chance for them to celebrate their holiday in the new apartment. You know, we're having to hunger strike here instead of celebrating it with entire family, but we have to be here. The move had negatively impacted many strikers. Now the protesters intend to organize their own medical group to monitor each other's blood pressure, as the ambulance doctors come only upon extreme calls. We used to come here at least twice a day, but we don't know how often we will have to come here now. We're just medical personnel. If we're called, we arrive. We just do our job. The new venue looks less comfortable than the previous one, and it is located just nearby the construction site. Kazakh interest holders intend to continue the strike until their demands are completely fulfilled. On the 39th day of the strike, people are still hoping that the authorities will solve their problems.
The instigators of the mass riots in the Granitny colony were established. All 13 suspects are held in pre-trial detention center at the moment. This was reported by the spokeswoman of the Kazakh Penitentiary Systems Committee, Irina Garnova, during a press conference held in Kokshetau yesterday. The convicts are charged with organization of mass insubordinate conduct followed with applying violence. On the August 12th night, the internal troops were entered in the Granitny colony in order to subdue a revolt which had provoked one of the inmates to conduct self-immolation act. According to official sources, 2 inmates killed and about 100 were injured during the operation. Major part of the casualties were caused by self-mutilation, which convicts have conducted in protest of bad detention conditions and tortures. A special operative group is functioning within the colony at the moment. It seems that aside arresting the instigators, the commission had also decided to unload the prison. The Kazakh Penitentiary Press Service informed that 27 inmates were freed on parole night after the revolt. The strike proved itself being nearly the most efficient way for workers to get paid by employers. 500 workers of the Arzan retail stores chain got finally paid. The next story has more.
The salaries are paid, but the reputation is damaged. As a result of the spontaneous protest action held on August 19th, more than 500 employees of the Arzan retail stores chain got paid their salary debts for 3 months yesterday. Of course, we feared that there might be suppressions and persecutions, but everything is all right. We weren't pressured at all. We're glad that the management had reacted positively to our demands to pay off the salaries. The only local economy class retail stores chain, Arzan, is experiencing serious financial problems. The concept of the business is to deliver the goods to consumers directly from the manufacturers, avoiding the dealers. All the state money goes to manufacture agriculture, but no one seems to care about the trade industry. How important is it for the country? We don't seem to understand that neither the production and agriculture company cannot be efficient without a good trade system. The labor union representatives claim that Arzan is not the only company experiencing such problems, as the entire industry had similarly worsened lately. Today, many trade enterprises are forced to use the bank loans under various circumstances and try to pay it off without having to pay fines. However, they shouldn't forget that they are also employers with certain obligations before the workers and the state. Zhibeka Zhibayeva had told us similar conflict situations were registered with Metro, Green and even Ramstore department stores. She claims the foreign retail store companies violate the Kazakh labor legislation more often than the locals.
The Almaty Weekly Central Asia Monitor had won the trial against the Kazakhstan Development Bank and its 6 major clients, including Utex, Kazakh Cement and others. The Financial Institute had found the publications on the Development Bank and about the fate of major investment projects as offensive. The series of articles in which journalists had questioned the efficiency of the well-promoted projects and the proper usage of money allocated for them. The bank found them discrediting its dignity and business reputation and asked the court to make the journalists publish refutation and pay the moral damage compensation in amount of more than $2 million. As a result of long hearings, Judge Gulnar Mirzhanova had declined the bank lawsuit and discharged an attachment of the real estate property of the newspaper.
First of all, during the trial, they couldn't prove that their reputation was harmed. We posted questions like, what was their reputation, what were their projects and plans, and where were their products? They couldn't answer, saying it is confidential.
4 citizens of Kazakhstan continue being held at the hospital in Chinese city of Xi'an with various types of traumas and injuries caused by the accident in which the bus had crashed into the truck on Friday night. The bus had total 48 passengers, 19 of which were the Kazakh students. According to Askar Abdurrahmanov, the Kazakh Foreign Affairs Ministry representative, there is no threat to lives of injured. He also told that the Kazakh consulate in Xinjiang had accommodated the part of the citizens in local hotels. The cause of the accident is not known yet.
The aid is being rendered to accident survivors at the moment. Specifically, the consulate in Xinjiang had contacted the local authorities in the Khami city and together assisting the citizens at the moment.
Last weekend was also challenging for the passengers of the Air Astana. The Zakon.kz web portal reported that Almaty-Moscow flight landed back in Almaty airport in 1 hour after the takeoff on Saturday. Passengers were neither told about the reasons of the landing back in Almaty nor compensated for the delay. Meanwhile, some of the Ust-Kamenogorsk-Astana passengers were simply left off the board on Sunday. Left-out passengers were outraged and demanded the Air Astana representatives to explain the situation. The next story has more.
Dozens of Ust-Kamenogorsk-Astana flight passengers got out of the boat yesterday. Some passengers complained that because of the situation they missed their connection flights to get home. This Spanish citizen is one of them. The new tickets for two cost us about $4,000. I'm outraged. It made me cry. The outraged passengers tried to find out the reason why they were forced to miss their flight from Air Astana desk. The airline's clerks didn't show up for a long time and finally linked the situation with internal problems. They told us that the Air Astana had 3 aircrafts broken and functioning jets were substituting the one which is supposed to carry us. It came from Pavlodar and boarded only those who checked earlier than others. The airport representatives refrained from talking to reporters. The airline workers also not keen on commenting the situation. I'm in the middle of meeting right now. I will give you the phone number you can call to. If this is Zhana's number, we already called her. Listen, I can't really talk right now. I have a meeting. The Consumers' Rights Protection Organization claims that Air Astana had violated the law and must compensate the passengers. In case of the delay, passengers can ask for compensation of each hour of delay, the amount of 3% of the ticket cost. However, it shouldn't exceed the cost of the ticket. Passengers left off the board had to wait for their flight to Astana for 1 day. They filed claims against the Air Astana management and intend to appeal to court.
Another air incident has been reviewed by the Mishyansky District Court of Moscow, Russia. The court had issued a resolution according to which the Kazakh citizen who hijacked the aircraft in July will be detained for 2 months before the announcement of final decision. Magomed Patiev had taken the crew and 113 passengers of the Mineralnye Vody Moscow flight on July 29th and kept them aboard of the aircraft for several hours. After the incident, the Kazakh embassy in Russia had stated that the hijacker was not a Kazakh citizen. However, the Kazakh Foreign Affairs Minister Askar Abdurakhmanov confirmed that Patiev possesses a Kazakh citizenship. The hijacker is charged with illegal deprival of person's freedom without kidnapping according to the Russian Federation Criminal Code's article number 127. He can be sentenced up to 5 years of imprisonment. Upon reviewing the case materials and hearing the arguments of the sides, the judge decided to fulfill the solicitation intercession. Thus, Magomed Patiev is detained for 2 months until September 29, 2010. Kazakh authorities intend to terminate the human trafficking channels. The next report examines how many Kazakh citizens encountered slavery and how the officials intend to fight against it.
The number of minors around the entire Central Asia who end up in labor slavery is increasing. On August 23rd, the head of the only in Kazakhstan rehabilitation center is teaching the pupils to be careful while searching for a job. According to the observations of the specialist, Kazakhstan is one of the leaders of the quantity of slavery victims in the region. They are often the relatives work as recruiters. There is such a thing as the second wave. The girls that work as prostitutes here are told to bring, for example, 2 girls from Uzbekistan, and they promise her that she will be freed, and she's forced to go because she just wants to survive. Since 2010, 100 cases of kidnapping were registered in Kazakhstan and 44 criminal cases were instigated. Police is worried as the tendency of kidnapping of minors for the further sexual exploitation is increasing. We had 2 cases. The criminals are in prison. The girls were brought from southern Kazakhstan and sold. There were also cases in Kurday district from the Karasu village. The girls were also brought there and sold, and the criminal cases were instigated over them too. Here are the calendars, the life stories and telephone numbers for consultations. The activists are distributing materials that explain the danger on the streets of Almaty and Astana. However, this action is just a one-day event that marks the International Day for Fighting Slave Trade. The awareness action was really small compared to the numbers of people that become victims of human trafficking in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. This is all for now. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.